In the winter of 1893, a photograph was taken inside a London orphanage. At first glance, it's just a little girl staring into the camera, but look closer. Her pupils are unnaturally dilated, not from fear, but from something she should have never seen. Her name was Evelyn Marrow, 9 years old, silent, pale, an orphan with no origin. She was found wandering the frozen streets near the Thames, barefoot, whispering to the darkness. The police believed she was simply lost. The doctors who examined her believed otherwise. Evelyn spoke fluently, but no one recognized the language. Not scholars, not priests, not even cryptographers called in by the government. Her speech sounded like voices layered over each other, a child and something else speaking together, as if two worlds fought for control inside the same body. The matron of the orphanage wrote in her personal log, "That girl's voice does not come from God's creation." Strange phenomena began the very night Evelyn arrived. Shadows lengthened unnaturally around her bed. Every candle near her flickered violently, even with no breeze. And if any child tried to speak to her, they claimed she repeated their words, moments before they even said them. Then children started disappearing. One by one, no signs of a struggle, no broken windows, no intruders. Their beds simply went cold. Evelyn was questioned repeatedly. Every time, her reply was the same. She would lift a finger and point behind the interrogator, even when nothing was there. The orphanage's head doctor, Dr. Lawson, insisted Evelyn's mind was fractured. That trauma had twisted her sense of reality. But his own notes say something different. Her memories do not belong to her. They belong to the dead. He believed Evelyn had seen the final moments of every missing child, because she described them in vivid detail, hours before they vanished. The photograph, the one you're about to see, was taken after a particularly terrifying night. All the surviving children had woken up screaming, not because of a nightmare, but because every single one of them had seen Evelyn standing beside their beds, smiling, even though she had never left her locked room. The photographer reported something else. While adjusting the lens, the temperature in the room dropped suddenly. His breath turned to frost. The flashbulb exploded, and Evelyn didn't blink, not once, throughout the entire session. Only later, when the photo was developed, did they notice it. Behind Evelyn's shoulder, a shape, a silhouette, elongated, leaning as if whispering directly into her ear. But the room had been empty during the shot. The image was immediately seized by local authorities and labeled classified, unauthorized viewing prohibited. They believed the photograph was cursed. Anyone who stared too long at Evelyn's eyes reported the same thing: a violent headache, a ringing noise, and then someone calling their name, a voice too close, like it was whispering from the inside of their skull. The children were moved to another location. The orphanage was abandoned within days. And Evelyn? She vanished. No records. No adoption files. No burial. It was as if she had never existed. Yet eyewitness reports continued. People claimed to see Evelyn staring from alleyways late at night, watching from windows of boarded-up buildings, even appearing in the backgrounds of photographs she shouldn't be in. Each sighting was followed by a new disappearance. Tonight, we reopened the file that the City of London wanted buried forever. We examined the evidence that no one was meant to see. And we asked the question nobody dared to ask. If Evelyn was just a child, what was standing behind her? For weeks after Evelyn vanished, no one dared speak her name. But secrets like hers don't stay buried for long. A priest, Father Samuel Crowhurst, insisted that the girl had been touched by something ancient, not possessed, recruited. He believed Evelyn wasn't hearing voices. She was answering them. The priest demanded temporary custody for an exorcism, claiming it was the only way to protect the remaining children. Authorities refused, so he broke into the abandoned orphanage himself. His diary, the only surviving record of that night, was found months later under the chapel floorboards. The pages were shredded and stained with something dark, but one passage remained intact. She is not its prisoner. She is its doorway. Father Crowhurst was found 2 days later wandering the streets barefoot, just like Evelyn had been. He repeated only one phrase over and over. They opened the door from the other side. The moment he was placed into medical care, every window in his room cracked at once. His heart stopped before the doctors reached him. His eyes never closed. Years later, a linguistics expert, Thomas Harrow, secretly obtained recordings of Evelyn's speech. He worked tirelessly to decode them. What he found was not a language at all, but instructions, a ritual, a method, a way to remove children from their bodies before they die. Not killing, extracting. The vanished children weren't missing. He realized they were taken. Or worse, transformed. Dr. Harrow sent a warning letter to the city council. One line stood out. If we ever understand her words fully, we will become what we fear. That letter was received. Harrow was never seen again. The tapes he recorded were sealed under Case File 71G, the same archive where Evelyn's photograph was locked away. For decades, the file remained untouched. Then, in 1978, a fire broke out at the police archive. Nearly every classified document was destroyed, but the photograph didn't burn. It was found perfectly intact, lying in the ashes, its edges unmarked, like the flames refused to touch it. Investigators noticed something horrifying. The shadow behind Evelyn in the picture had moved. It now appeared closer to Evelyn's ear, and its shape looked almost human, but stretched, like a puppet with its strings pulled from the afterlife. Even worse, the photograph showed more children in the background than there had been when the original was taken. Ghostly silhouettes, tiny faces, pressed against the walls as if begging to be let out. Names were written beneath each shape in a language still unidentified. Authorities sealed the picture once again, this time under military protection. But one copy slipped out, sold anonymously at a private auction. The winning bidder never claimed it, because he disappeared that same night. The last official report came from a train conductor in 1989. A girl fitting Evelyn's exact description. Same clothing, same cold stare, no aging, no decay. Like time refused to move through her. Was seen stepping off a late-night train. She walked into the fog and then vanished behind a cemetery gate. But the conductor saw something else. Every street lamp flickered out as she passed, and behind her, that same elongated shadow, following her, like a loyal companion. Every expert who dared to investigate claims the same thing. Evelyn isn't a ghost. She isn't a demon. She isn't even human anymore. She is a harbinger. A warning of what waits on the other side of the dark. And if she returns again, she won't be alone. There's a detail everyone overlooked. A single clue that had been hiding in plain sight. The frame around Evelyn's photo was not the original. Historians discovered ornate carvings etched into the wood. Symbols belonging to an 18th century occult order called the Choir of the Hollow. They believed children were the purest vessels and could serve as messengers between worlds. The choir had one goal: to build a path for something waiting in the darkness. A voice, a presence, a crowd that speaks as one. Their scripture described a prophecy. When the chosen child hears us, the silence between heartbeats will open. They waited centuries for that child, and they found her in Evelyn. Orphanage records revealed secret observations of Evelyn. Doctors noted how she would go hours without blinking, days without sleeping. Her blood had iron levels 10 times higher than anything medically possible. As if her body was preparing for something, they took samples from her throat. Inside her vocal cords, scientists found tiny fissures, marks that looked burned from the inside, like her voice was not meant for the human world. X-rays showed that her ear bones were fractured and reformed repeatedly, as if she was constantly adjusting to new frequencies. New voices entering her mind. Voices that did not come from this earth. Every child who vanished after speaking with Evelyn was recorded in a list. 19 names, 19 orphans, all gone without a trace. But the choir had a ritual. 19 is the number of the bridge. A physician, Dr. Merton, risked everything to leak these files. He wrote a final warning before his disappearance. The children are not dead. They have become the silence. He believed their minds were absorbed into whatever was communicating through Evelyn, and that she was collecting them. When the photo resurfaced in the late 20th century, researchers noticed something new. Evelyn's eyes were no longer looking at the camera. She was looking through it. Like the viewer wasn't observing her, she was observing you. One analyst enhanced the reflection in her pupils, in the glossy darkness. Behind the camera lens, a group of pale figures could be seen, standing, motionless, the exact number of the missing children. Their mouths were open, but no sound was heard. Detective Clara Ann dedicated her life to unraveling Evelyn's case. She tracked cult members, decoded symbols, followed every lead. But her breakthrough came at a price. During a taped interview, she whispered, "They're close now. I hear them in the gaps between sounds." Her breathing became rapid. She stared into the camera, then screamed so violently that the audio cut out. When investigators replayed the tape, something horrifying appeared. Her scream had been layered, multiple voices overlapping like a broken choir. She was restrained, but even strapped to the hospital bed, her jaw continued moving. Speaking words her voice could no longer form. The doctors wrote. She was speaking Evelyn's language. Clara disappeared the following night. Her empty restraints were found in a perfect circle on the floor, the same shape carved into Evelyn's frame. Experts now believe the truth is worse than any haunting. Evelyn didn't simply communicate with something beyond our world. She was the first convert, the emissary, the one chosen to guide the rest, because whatever spoke to Evelyn wasn't trying to come here, it was trying to take us. There. The harder you look into Evelyn's case, the more one question becomes impossible to ignore. Why did she let the photograph be taken? Why did she want us to see her? Because she wanted us to recognize her when she returns. And every sighting since 1989 says the same thing. She's getting closer. There is one more piece of evidence. A single page that survived hundreds of attempts to censor this story. A letter written by the matron of the orphanage, just 2 days before Evelyn disappeared. The ink is shaky. The sentences break. Like she was writing while something stood behind her. Evelyn told me she remembers a place before she was born. Not heaven, not earth. A world built from every forgotten death. She says they are calling for her, and when the door opens, she will call for us. Pinned to the letter was a torn photograph. It showed a hallway inside the orphanage. Dark, empty, silent. But in the far distance, beyond where the corridor should end, a second hallway appears. Narrow, impossible, like the building itself was bending, stretching to make room for something that shouldn't exist. And standing in that impossible space was Evelyn. Her head turned, her lips slightly parted, as if she was whispering to someone in a place the camera couldn't reach. In 1997, cult researchers uncovered a chilling discovery. The Choir of the Hollow did not disappear in the 1700s. They simply changed their method. No more rituals in the open. No more cloaked gatherings around fires. Instead, they used cameras. Every group photo, every portrait, every flash of light. A chance to capture a child who could hear the silence. They believed photographs were not memories, but windows, gateways, frames designed to keep something still, until the moment it chooses to move again. What Evelyn really is. Some call her a ghost. Some call her a demon. But the truth is far worse. Evelyn is a signal. A message carried in flesh. We are not alone. And they want to be seen. Researchers examining her case agree on one horrific conclusion. Every confirmed sighting of Evelyn has occurred in places where children mysteriously vanished. Train stations, orphanages, playgrounds, hospitals, schools, and each time, Evelyn looks exactly the same. As if time is not a river she travels through, but a door she simply chooses to enter. Authorities can't explain it. Doctors refuse to discuss it. But photographic analysts insist. Evelyn isn't appearing in these places. She is waiting for the moment when every child who hears her voice will follow her back to the other side of the frame. Tonight, you saw the file London tried to bury. You saw the evidence. You heard the truth. Now look at Evelyn's eyes again. Stare too long, and you might hear the same ringing noise others described. The same whisper, a voice with no mouth. A message written between heartbeats. The silence is coming. Experts warn. If Evelyn appears again, it will not be as one girl. It will be as a choir. And their first note, their first song, will erase the world we know, like it was nothing more than a photograph. Children at the orphanage began sketching Evelyn long before she was ever brought there. Drawings were found hidden under mattresses, carved into old wooden desks with rusted nails, and chalked across the walls of the playroom rough shapes at first. But always the same girl with hollow eyes and a doorway behind her that led into nothingness. At first, the staff assumed the children were simply copying one another, imagination spreading like a game. Around the same time, a strange sound began traveling through the walls at night. Not footsteps or voices or the usual creaks of an old London building. It was a hum low, steady, metallic vibrating through pipes, floorboards, and bed frames. Children woke with their teeth chattering from the frequency. They complained that the noise came from under their beds, from behind the mirrors, even from inside their ears. When staff asked who was making the sound, every child answered the same chilling thing. She's practicing. Some nights the humming grew so powerful that windows rattled and the lamps flickered like they were suffocating in the darkness. And every time the humming stopped abruptly, another child was missing. Doctors brought phonographs to capture the noise, determined to prove the children were delusional. But the devices picked up nothing, no humming, no whispers, nothing but static, until they played the recordings back. Instead of silence, hundreds of voices poured from the speakers in unsettling harmony, whispering at once, "Let us out." The doctors destroyed the tapes and blamed faulty technology, but the nurses who heard that whispering would never forget the sensation cold, fingers dragging slowly along the inside of their skulls, as if the voices were trapped in their heads, begging to be released. One child, Anna Whitlock, age 10, believed Evelyn was not dangerous, but simply lonely. Anna brought her bread stolen from the kitchen and read stories to her through the locked door. On the final night, the guard passing by heard Anna's small voice ask, "Do you miss your family?" There was a pause, so long the guard thought the girls had fallen asleep. Then Evelyn's voice answered soft, clear, emotionless. "They are standing right behind you." The guard spun around, lantern trembling in his grip, but the hall was empty. When he turned back, The door was wide open. Both girls were gone. Anna's shoes remained at the bottom of the staircase, still warm, as if her feet had only just slipped out of them. She was never found. Soon after, a freezing draft began rising from beneath the floorboards in the west wing. Yet the orphanage was not built with a basement. Blueprints confirmed this. Still, authorities ripped up the floor, revealing a staircase descending into darkness. It led to a long stone corridor clearly older than the orphanage itself. Lanterns shook violently as investigators moved deeper. The walls were covered in blackened handprints, small, child-sized prints burned into the stone, as though dozens of children had been dragged away while desperately trying to hold onto the walls. In the pitch black ahead, voices whispered a single note, over and over, like a choir rehearsing an eternal song. The investigators fled in terror. The stairs were sealed. The institution was shut down. Every record burned. But fire cannot erase the truth. Officials refused to acknowledge one detail. Every major moment tied to Evelyn, her birth, arrival. Each disappearance aligned perfectly with nights when the moon was completely dark. No light, no shadow, just absence. Researchers now believe Evelyn is not bound to life or death, but to darkness itself. When the world turns black, she moves. When children vanish, they do not die. They simply join the choir. Years after the orphanage was demolished, tourists and urban explorers captured photos of the abandoned field. When those images were brightened in editing software, a small girl could be seen at the very edge of the frame, face turned, lips slightly parted, as though a frozen hum rested between them. The longer people stared, the sharper she became, as if the camera was helping Evelyn step fully into the world. That is why photography experts now warn, do not enhance a photo if you even suspect she is in it, because in certain images, Evelyn doesn't just appear. She looks back. No one knows why she chooses children. No one knows what the choir is preparing for. But every theory points to one terrifying possibility. A day when the humming won't be confined to the walls of an orphanage. A day when every child hears it. A day when the world finally listens to the silence between the notes, then follows. In the months following the orphanage's closure, London authorities attempted to reassure the public that every missing child case had been investigated. Every rumor dismissed, every whisper silenced. Yet, quietly, behind sealed doors and locked archives, panic spread. Reports emerged from different parts of the country, stories too similar to be coincidence. A child humming alone in a school hallway long after the other. Students had gone home. Another vanishing during a class photograph where the camera shutter clicked and the child was simply no longer there. Doctors treating children who spoke of seeing a girl with big black eyes whenever the lights went out. These accounts traveled fast among those who still remembered Evelyn. They had no evidence to prove it, but they all feared the same truth. Whatever escaped that orphanage was not trapped there. It had wandered free into the world. A special unit formed inside the Metropolitan Police, unofficial and unnamed, dedicated to tracking cases involving strange disappearances. Their members spoke rarely, slept little, and avoided cameras entirely. Their headquarters walls were covered in pinned newspaper clippings, hundreds of faces of missing children connected by strings of red thread. In the center of this chaotic web hung a single photograph. A small girl, standing in the background of a crowded carnival picture from 1921. Her face slightly blurred, her eyes unblinking, her mouth just starting to form the first silent note of a hum. The unit analyzed every detail, running the image through every scientific test they had. The conclusion terrified them. Evelyn had not aged a day. This discovery led to the darkest theory of all. Evelyn wasn't abducted. She wasn't dead. She was recruiting. And photographs weren't just windows. They were invitations. Children drawn to her presence would stand too long in front of a mirror, stare into reflective windows during storms, or insist that cameras were making sounds no adult could hear. And then one morning, their beds would be cold and neatly made, their toys untouched, their shoes placed gently at the door, still warm, like the child had stepped out of the world only seconds before dawn. What no one understood was where they went. That answer didn't come until 1954, when an electrician repairing a power grid beneath the old orphanage grounds discovered a tunnel. Not a basement, something deeper. The air was stale and freezing, so cold his breath formed ice crystals in front of his mouth. He heard something faint rising from the darkness below. A soft harmonic tone, layered and perfect, as though many voices were holding a single note. The electrician followed the sound only a few steps before his flashlight flickered. As the light dimmed, he saw them rows of small figures standing in the corridor, motionless. Children, dozens of them, faces pale, eyes black, mouths slightly open, practicing. When his flashlight finally died, he felt warm breath against his neck and a child's voice whispering a single word in the darkness. Soon. The man ran until his lungs tore for air and never spoke of it again. But he didn't need to. The choir knew patience. They had been practicing for centuries. A song like theirs wasn't meant for one room, one building, one unlucky group of children. It was meant for everyone. Modern cases continue quietly, buried in the corners of the internet where parents gather to whisper fears they can't prove. A girl humming in the security footage of a shopping mall at closing time. A child frozen in the background of a family vacation picture who no one remembers seeing that day. Entire classrooms reporting nightmares of a hallway stretching forever, with a little girl waiting at the far end, her head tilted, her voice humming a note so low it lodged itself inside the listener's bones. And each report describes the same moment. When the lights flicker, the humming stops. An absolute silence presses against the ears, so heavy and unnatural that the mind panics, begging for any sound at all, because silence means one thing: the choir is listening back. Researchers tracking these patterns have identified something horrifying. The disappearances are not random. They follow cycles, periods where darkness lasts longer, shadows deepen faster, and the moon gives no light. They believe the choir is growing. They believe Evelyn is no longer alone. And they believe the humming is no longer practice. But warning, the most frightening part? None of the investigators who get too close stay around long enough to publish their findings. Files go missing. Hard drives turn up wiped. Families receive quiet settlements and are instructed to forget. But fear does not forget. Stories do not die. And photographs never lie. Parents now whisper to their children, do not hum alone. Do not follow music you cannot explain. Do not stare too long into a camera lens. Do not listen when the silence becomes heavy. Because Evelyn is not hunting. She is inviting. She's building her choir, one voice at a time. And once the final voice joins, their first real song will not be heard. It will be felt. A vibration that shakes the bones of the earth. A note that unthreads every heartbeat. A harmony that erases every scream. Before it can escape the throat, the world will open like a photograph, folding flat and disappearing into the frame. All that will remain is the choir. So now you know the truth, the orphanage, the disappearances, the photographs. None of it ended. Evelyn is still here, still calling, still growing her choir one child at a time. If tonight, while you try to sleep, you hear a soft humming in the dark, don't listen. Don't turn toward it. Don't look into the mirror, because once she knows you're listening, she won't need a photograph to reach you. She will already be standing behind you. Subscribe if you want another night of silence. And remember, when the humming stops, the choir has already chosen its next voice.